On today's podcast, we discuss barbell training versus machine training and which one will bring you to your goals faster. All right, and we are back with the Reckless Training podcast. We have been gone for just a minute, but we've been very busy, so we figured we'd give you a little bit of an update on where we've been allocating our time outside of our coaching and working with our clients. We most recently ran the first ever strong lifting event at the Arnold Classic or Arnold Sports Festival or Arnold Expo, whatever, whichever one you want to call it. And we're still recuperating. It was probably the wildest event we've ever run. You were spearheading this, so feel free to jump in and talk about it.
Yeah, it's rough. It's a lot, but just a lot of moving parts, and you're trying to like fit everything together and trying to get it all to come together at one point, like at the same time, and it's tough, especially when it's in Columbus and you're trying to get there from Florida, and you have to pick up equipment from North Carolina and some from Indiana, and
all corners of the earth.
Yeah,
That's what it felt like.
It was a great event. Everyone had a great time.
Yeah.
It was an expensive event.
Yes.
For us.
Yeah.
But
I feel like the athletes always have a great time, and that's always a nice thing after the end of it being so crazy. They're always enjoying their experience, and we're very athlete centered, so that is a nice positive coming after all that hard work.
Yeah, it's nice because we usually get that feedback because it always feels like everything's crazy and falling apart to us, but it's because we're working so hard to keep the athlete experience moving along smoothly. And everyone always tells us afterwards, like, man, I didn't notice anything. It was great. I had a great time. I'll definitely be back, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's probably why 50% of our strong lifting athletes are repeat competitors because they just want to keep coming back for more. So, that's very encouraging.
It is good energy, and it is good athlete camaraderie. I feel like everybody is there to kind of go through the experience together, and friendships are always getting established. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. Everybody's kind of just...
Well, when you're with someone for an entire day, you almost don't have a choice. And usually
6 lifts.
Yeah. And usually you find people who like you're, similar strength level with, and you get to warm up with them. And usually it's for most of the lifts. So now you're warming up with them for not just one session, but 2 sessions, which, like you said, 6 lifts. I mean, it's just a long day. So
it is. Yeah.
And then, you might go get lunch with them. You might sit there and, wait for the next session. It's just, it really is, people always talk about the friendships that they make at these strong lifting events, and it's nice.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. So yes, it did all come together for us. We also had some guests that came.
Yeah.
We had some celebrities. Saturday was like celebrity center.
Yeah, Brett was there pretty much all day on Saturday.
Yeah.
Ray Williams was there for the vast majority of the day coaching Tasha. And Arnie.
Arnie? Are you guys on a personal friendship level now?
Yeah, Arnie came. Arnold.
So Brett Contreras, you guys know, he's the father of strong lifting, Booty by Brett, hip thrust, invented the hip thrust. We've talked about him a lot on the podcast, and TC works pretty close with him. And then Ray Williams is a coach with Iron Bill, and also...
He's a multiple time, I think 7-time world IPF super heavyweight world champion. And he was like the first guy to squat over 1,000 pounds in just knee sleeves and a belt. And
it's
since
incredible.
Then, he's done it like 50 plus times since then.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So yeah, he's a force, and he's intelligent. I believe he has his doctorate at this point. I think he got it during COVID. And just a great guy. Just like really cares about his athletes, and he's just a great guy.
Yeah, he puts some good content on Instagram as well too.
Yeah, go follow him. He's Optimus Prime something. I think 993 or something like that. Optimus Prime on Instagram. And like Chris said, he's also the coach at Iron Bill Lifting Club.
Yeah. So those are like really cool people we get to work with, and that showed up at our event. And then yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger came in. We were doing deadlift. We were doing a deadlift
Yeah,
flight,
the females deadlifts. Yeah.
which was really exciting because the deadlift flight that was like competing at that time had all of our girls that were competing. So men competed on Friday and women competed on Saturday. And Saturday was probably the busiest day. If you've been to the Arnold Expo, it is the busiest day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had our girls performing their deadlifts. Arnold came in, and you could tell immediately, like everyone got their phone out. TC and I were,
Trying to keep enough people focused on the event to
oh
keep
my
it running.
gosh, oh my gosh, it was like everything stopped.
Hey, focus.
Oh my gosh. And my favorite part was TC telling Arnold's security to get out of the way. That was probably one of the highlights. I didn't hear it, but
They were standing in front of the score table. They're like right in front of where the athletes are supposed to give their attempts.
I was like, babe, okay. But I mean, we were there to run an event, and that was
Yeah.
our priority amongst coaching the athletes that we had competing. So, yeah, we didn't stop even for Arnold. But yeah, I was really proud of you. You did a really good job because TC was running it and coaching at the same time that everyone was like losing their mind that Arnold was there. And he came in and sat down and then ended up moving up to the first row. And it was pretty cool. He was like clapping and cheering for the girls. And we had Janelle Aspinwall, Galaxia Planches, and Lena competing in the deadlifting flight, right? I didn't forget anyone. So they all got to compete, and on the big screen, Janelle had her like bikini competition picture up there for her profile picture, which I thought was really cool. And Galaxy was having like a great day, man.
Yeah.
Everything looked so.
Well, I think she put her second attempt. What I had put down as her second attempt is all of her openers.
Oh my gosh!
After every opener, I went up and I was like, okay, that was this. And she was like, no, it's this. And I was like, oh, okay, that was too easy.
She was killing it.
But she was sick a couple weeks before, so we kind of tried to play a little conservative. Like we just wanted to chip her PRs, and she ended up blowing a lot of them out of the water.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Yeah, she did great.
She's having a great day. And then Lena, she was closing out the flight for deadlift. She was great.
Yeah, but she hit a couple of PRs as well. We're still shy of that lifetime bench PR and the lifetime deadlift PR. Well, no. I guess we hit the lifetime deadlift PR at Worlds, but this would have been another one at 425.
She fought for it.
Yeah, it was like so close. So
She was smiling the whole time. I loved it.
yeah.
It was just good energy.
she'll get it in Miami. She'll get 425.
Yeah. There's a lot.
She also had a torn callus. Like it was just not like she was trying to. Then Arnold was there. What are you gonna do?
Don't
grip
back
it, and rip it.
But then he did go and talk to like a bunch of the athletes. He did talk to Jim.
Well, not a bunch of them. Most of them like came up and talked to him, but
Okay.
like Lena she was walking down the aisle and he stopped to talk to her about her deadlift and said, "You can't ever say no. Once you say no, your body listens and you won't get it." So
Yeah, he said because she was fighting for that last deadlift, and you could see because I have the video too. She starts shaking her head no because she knows that it like for technicality purposes the lift is not going to count.
yeah,
But she's still pulling the lift, and she's shaking her head no. And then he came up and talked to her and said, "You have to tell your body yes. Don't tell your body no."
yeah.
It's so many words.
And Andrew Schwartz got that on video for us too, so that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like being able to have that conversation on video, that was cool. Andrew Schwartz he's a dad of one of our other very impressive athletes, 15-year-old kid benching 315.
Oh my gosh.
In competition. That's ridiculous, and that's not the only. He's not a one-trick pony. So he just totaled 12 times body weight at this last strong lifting competition. He's one of the guys who got that. So
freakishly strong. Yeah, he's very impressive to watch, and he has a very like chill demeanor.
yeah.
He's not all like I don't even know. He's like a mystery to me because you interact with him more. But yeah, he carries himself really well, and he's very, very strong. So yeah, we had a bunch of athletes compete. They did great. TC did a great job coaching. Everybody was happy. We hit new PRs. I don't even remember. A bunch of people got awards.
Yeah, Ethan came in basically second for the Formula Best Lifter. I think he was 13.38, and I think Alex Soretsky was 13.83 or something.
Oh man.
But he was, right behind him for the Best Lifter award. And
Also a very impressive athlete.
yeah, and Jacob Schwartz, he also got the 12 times body weight total. I believe he won his class. I believe both of them won their class.
I think so.
So, yeah, guys did great, girls did great. Everyone had a great time. So, Bells of Steel sponsored our warm-up area. They sent us four-post squat racks and 9 barbells, along with a bunch of weights and collars and flags and keychains and
The whole warm-up area was basically brand new.
but it was, except for the deadlift bars. So yeah, if you guys need anything, any kind of workout equipment, check out Bells of Steel. We have a discount code, it's RAW10, just capital RAW10. But they have a ton of really, really nice equipment that is very competitively priced. I'm about to pick up one of their multi-grip bench bars because it's only like $200, and the one that I want is like $400. So,
And we live on a budget.
yeah. So, well, that's why I don't have it yet. Because I'm still looking at it, trying to figure out how I can get it. So, but yeah, they really came out, showed up for us, and we're exceptionally appreciative and really excited to be able to bring that to our future competitions, right? Like our goal is to create some of the best equipped elite level competitions out there. And this is an enormous step in that direction. I want people to know that, when you come to a Reckless event, strong lifting competition, it's going to be at least one of the very best competitions that you will ever go to as a powerlifter.
Yeah, it is. I think that is why the athletes really do appreciate it too. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a lot of details.
Yeah.
We had really nice goodie bags.
We do goodie bags for all of our athletes. They were sponsored by Pioneer Fitness. They make custom leather lifting belts,
They're very nice.
as well as like a bunch of other accessories like straps and regular, jeans belts and wallets. They make a bunch of stuff, so you can go check out their website. I think it might be generalleathercraft.com or something. If you Google either Pioneer weightlifting belt or General Leathercraft, it will pop up. And I am working on getting a discount code from them too. But
Oh yeah, I was
Like-
wondering about that.
yeah, like I said, they do make really nice stuff. They sponsored our goodie bags this year.
Yeah, I just Googled Pioneer lifting belt.
Yeah, and it usually pops
First
up
website.
first.
They make custom ones too.
Yeah, then we had BC Strength and Booty by Brett sponsor our 6-inch custom soft enamel filled medals, as well as the $500 cash prizes for the best lifters, the heaviest total, and the 12-time body weight totals.
There's a lot of cash prizes.
Yeah, we gave out, I think, $6,000 in cash prizes.
It is wild.
So
Wait, so tell them about so there's a challenge that if you could get 12 times body weight at this event, which means your total for
all 6 left.
all 6 lifts is 12 times your body weight, you could win $500.
Yeah.
So how
So we had
many men
we had seven guys up there who
won
this.
$500?
So
Big money.
next year it will be 14 times body weight total for men and 13 times body weight total for women. Mm-hmm. Those will be the $500 prize points. And we'll still be doing the best lifter and heaviest total.
Because Taylor Clark was our female. That
Yeah,
guy.
and she was pulling punches. So Taylor, this one's for you. Quit sandbagging. I see you.
She got 12 times body weight. So
Yep.
shout out to Taylor for setting the
Yeah.
bar for the ladies.
Yeah, she was the one lady who got the 12 times body weight. But yeah, we want to keep pushing you guys. Like that's the other thing that we want Reckless Training to do is to really help create just a larger pool of elite athletes. And that's not just we want you to coach with us. It's about like training the mentality of there's always more. And yeah, you did a great job, and that is something to be proud of. But there's always more, and what's next? Okay, so let's continue to look for what's next.
So what's next? Miami is next.
Yeah. Oh, don't remind me. Yeah, so Miami, we're like 9 weeks out from Miami right now.
That was our first ever strong
Yeah.
lifting event, Reckless Miami Mayhem.
So this will be our second
was
annual.
complete mayhem.
Yeah.
But all of them are. So it'll
Yeah.
be a good time. But this is our second round with that event in Miami at a, I forget which expo it is, but all the information's on our Reckless Training website. And it'll be the same thing. We'll have the strong lifting but it'll all be in one day. It won't be 2 days. It'll be one day.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be one day, one platform. So instead of 60 lifters, instead of 30 men, 30 women, we'll only be able to take 30 lifters total. So we do expect this one to fill up pretty quickly. Brett's athletes are kind of more centered in Miami, or they'll be more willing to fly to Miami. So we are expecting this roster to fill up a little faster than the Arnold or even Miami last year, because last year was our first year. So yeah, if you have any questions, if you're interested in coming out to compete or coming out to help out, definitely reach out. Let us know. We'd love to have you either way.
Which that's another point is a huge thank you to our help.
Yeah.
Because TC and I can't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We had a athlete, Hillary, who is a bikini athlete on our team, come drive all the way out there and spend basically the whole weekend helping us like put these last minute pieces of things together. And then we needed her at the score table, and she did a great job. So we really appreciate all of our events. We've had Reckless Training athletes. Some of them fly, like they buy plane tickets.
Yeah, for Miami last year, we had
pay for
Elizabeth and John.
hotels to come out and basically just give us a lifeline and help us. So we're extremely blessed to have such a strong and valuable.
And then there's Janelle, who comes out to compete and then is like just there to
Janelle
also
cannot
help.
be stopped.
Yeah. Well, I'll do rack heights now. Okay, but you're supposed to be getting ready to compete. Yeah, but I'll do rack heights.
She's great. She just takes the reins.
Yeah.
I talked to her yesterday, and she's telling me about her job as a ER nurse. I'm like, oh, so you just like thrive in chaos. So this was nothing for you. But yeah, we have a really, really amazing team. Really great people.
Yeah, and then Peter put together the entire backdrop experience, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Learning how to use Pro Presenter and creating the layers and making the slides for our athletes and integrating the live stream and helping me troubleshoot. I'm not a tech guy. What I know I do because I have to, because I don't have enough tech friends to be able to ask.
Well, now you do.
Yeah. So the fact that Peter has been kind enough to, come on and again, take the reins here, is great. And
He's very good at
yeah,
it.
and the fact that he likes it and enjoys it, and I can let him play with a screen in return, I guess you could say. But
He did a great job on those slides.
yeah,
I was like blown away.
and it was the first time. You know what I mean? So it's just like every single time that we're gonna do this, we're gonna like this time the goal was keep it simple, and make it happen, right? So next time we're gonna say, okay, this is what we did. What can we add to it? So yeah, I'm excited for Miami. I'm excited to see what we're gonna do. I still want to play around with some green screen stuff for the profile pictures, but have like Harry Potter images instead of just static ones. But we'll see. That's
we had a photographer and a videographer, and
yeah. Grant brought an extra videographer so that he can do some hype videos for the athletes, and I think that went over really well at these bigger events. We're going to try to maintain that. Because with the bigger events, there is a higher cost associated on the back end. So being able to provide more value in the things that we offer to our athletes allows us to charge a little more to cover these extra expenses that these bigger events entail, like these 6-inch medals that you're not going to find at any other powerlifting meet. I mean, we saw the Arnold ones, right? They were like 4 inches. They were custom die cut. They were nice medals, but you're not going to find, unless you go to a bodybuilding show and you spend $500 on your registration. You know what I mean? Like we just try to do a good job. So
yeah, there's a lot of personalization too for trying to make the athletes feel, and they pay it forward too. Like we had people sharing deadlift socks. I had so many. I was trying to find so many deadlift socks on one flight.
yeah.
Shout out to Gary Teeter and John Wong, who had extra socks that everyone was sharing. But yeah, it was a crazy time, but it was good. And good job to you too. I know that was a lot.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, babe. Yeah.
Shout out to Longshot Gamble.
Yeah, it was fun. And yeah, we do the custom t-shirts for our athletes at our strong lifting events. We really want to, again, cultivate this elite athlete environment, right? And we want you to know that when you come to one of these events, you will be treated like an elite athlete who is there to compete in 6 events today. So yeah, if you have any other suggestions, if anyone who's been to one of our events has a suggestion as to how we can continue to perpetuate this progress and continue making it better, we're all ears. So yeah, otherwise, if you are
We're
interested
working
in
on
trying it out,
Yeah.
shoot us some questions. We love answering questions.
Well,
We love answering valid questions.
please be kind to us with your questions. Okay, and yeah, the Miami Reckless Miami Mayhem, that strong lifting event is May 24th.
Yeah, May 24th at the Miami International Fitness Expo. It's not at the fairgrounds. Don't listen to that. Where is it?
It's Miami-Dade County Fair and Expo,
Okay,
but it is in Miami, Florida. So
that's what it is. It's the Fair and Expo Center, not the fairgrounds.
okay,
It's like
so
just a little southwest of the Miami airport. I mean, it's like 10, 15 minutes from there. So
and if you like bodybuilding, they have a huge bodybuilding show there too,
yeah, they have the Miami Pro-Am.
which I competed in. That's how we got into this mess.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think they call it Pro-Am anymore. I mean, it is a Pro-Am. It's Miami Pro and the NPC something. Battle of the Body. I don't know what it is. Something.
Babe.
But it's basically Miami Pro-Am. But yeah, it's a fun little expo. It's been growing. This is the first year at this new venue because it has been growing, and it was time we needed a bigger space.
It's Miami Muscle Beach.
There it is. Yeah, NPC Miami Muscle.
But they have bikini and men's physique there on for the pros. They always have good judges, and they always have a million athletes. Yo, there's a lot of and they have wellness there too.
Yeah.
It is very hard to find a pro show that has 3 pro categories for reasons. But it is cool. It's kind of like a mini like Arnold or something, or a mini Olympia, because you're getting to see a bunch of different categories.
Yeah, it is really cool. And they have like Grid League, they have like Ninja Warrior, they have weightlifting. I think that he's gonna have like a little like a basketball tournament. I think there's an extra room that we have this year with like 3 or 4 basketball courts or something.
It's always getting bigger.
So yeah, I mean, whatever you're interested in, if it's anything having to do with body sports, you'll probably be able to find something to enjoy yourself with. And it's Memorial Day weekend, so hopefully people should have some time off from work, should be able to come down and enjoy the long weekend, the beautiful Miami weather. But yeah, come on down. It's gonna be great. We're doing strong lifting, and we will have our very first 100% raw strict curl pro-am at the Miami. We'll be awarding, I want to say 2 pro cards. I think we're going to do one man, one woman. And then we're going to be giving some cash prizes to our pros as well.
Okay. So,
What are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the details for that event. Okay, so let's talk about our topic at hand.
Yeah.
Why you probably clicked on this podcast in the first place.
If you've made it this far, congratulations.
We do have some interesting things to talk about. So we want to discuss training with barbells or free weights versus training with machines, because there's pros and cons to both. There's ways to implement both things, and depending on your goals, whether it's hypertrophy or strength, there's ways to basically utilize many different methods. So why don't we start with machines? Fine with that. Our benefits for working with machines. I wrote notes. TC is free balling it here.
Free balling.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that on the podcast.
I'm improvising.
Okay. I'll work on my professional lingo.
That was a pain in the dick.
So machines are, I think, a great place for people to start, because when you're wanting to start with exercise, I mean, I think this is kind of like a no-brainer. It's going to be least barrier of entry, easier to get on a piece of equipment, adjust a weight, kind of feel out the movement. The machine usually puts you in a certain position, and it's a great way to kind of, start your fitness journey. For more advanced athletes, I like machines primarily for the what's the word I'm looking for? The not availability, but the way that you can isolate movements. So you can isolate muscle groups, you can isolate a movement. You're not focused on anything usually compound. And I'm thinking about like your general machines that you see in a gym, because it does a couple things. It takes out like the need for stability, like energy expenditure for stability, where you would get that with like more free weights. It allows you kind of just like lock in. So like an example for me would be a lateral raise machine. Sometimes I can just like sit in the seat. I still brace my core, but I'm able to move my arms a little bit differently in space, whether it's like forward or back, to target my delts a little bit differently. So like raising my arms up just like straight out to my sides, it's going to feel differently than if I bring my elbows a little bit forward versus bring them a little bit back, and kind of like play around with that. And I don't have to worry so much about like I'm actually like working with the machine versus like trying to be more aware of my body and space. So it allows me to kind of like put more mental energy towards like hitting my delts, for example.
Sure.
And the more of like a compound movement type of situation with the machine, I really am liking a hack squat right now, actually. Believe it or not, there's like one, they put all these hack squats in Planet Fitness, and we were just traveling for, I don't even know, 4 weeks. And I actually was able to isolate my glutes better in that hack squat versus trying to do a Smith machine, where Smith machine's kind of like a middle ground, right? Where you are paying attention to where your body is in gravity, but or in space, but you do have some type of structure there.
Sure.
Where the hack squat, I just kind of like focused on my feet. I focused on my knee depth, like where my knees were coming down, like trying to push my knees over my toes, believe it or not. Focusing on my core position, my pelvis position, like some of those key factors to just kind of like hit a little bit at a time and see where I could hone in on my glutes versus like trying to stand up in space and squat with a barbell. So
Sure.
that's kind of my thoughts.
I agree. I also disagree.
Okay, tell us your thoughts on machine work. Are there things you like it for? Or?
I actually don't really disagree with anything that you said, because you were just making a point as saying, as a beginner, a machine can be beneficial for you in these ways, and as an advanced athlete, a machine can be beneficial for you in these ways. And I agree with what you said.
Great.
Some things that I have learned just in the past few years are that machines can continue to perpetuate movement issues because of that lack of stability and the removal of the proprioceptive factor, right? Like the awareness of your body in space and having to focus on that, and having to brace yourself against gravity. So when you remove that, it sometimes can allow you to continue to brace improperly. Like for me, for example, for leg extensions, for the longest time, I had the biggest problem doing leg extensions without getting low back pain. And I finally realized that on my right hip, my iliacus or my psoas, one of those is, or both, is super tight, and it keeps that hip pulled forward and rolled forward. And I'm engaging through there, and I'm getting more stability from there than I am from my abdominals. And I feel like I'm clenching my abs, but I'm not. I'm clenching those hip flexor muscles instead. And it gives me low back pain, right? And then that movement pattern is again accentuated when we go to use our leg extension movement in real life.
Okay.
So yeah, I would agree with the fact that they give you the opportunity to better isolate muscles. I would just be wary of falling into the same movement patterns over and over again, right? Of not being, but that's what we coach, right? Is just being intentional with how you move, and like using it specifically, kind of like what you said about the hack squat, right? I think that machines are a really, really good opportunity to put yourself in a position and then hold it there to like try to strengthen these weaker stabilizer muscles, because the machine helps with stabilization, right? So now that's just a different perspective. That's a different training block, right? From this beginner that we were talking about earlier, where we just want to get them moving, right? We just want to get them using their muscles, starting to build these neuromuscular pathways and starting to figure out how to use their body in these specific movement patterns. And then ideally they have someone in a leadership capacity that can, help lead them away from bad movement patterns. But yeah, so go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that it's challenging. Sometimes we say like machines are the easiest place to start, but you also you do want to be able to like move your body freely in space. You don't want to just always do machine, because machines also can force you to learn to use your body in poor positions.
Yeah.
Whether you don't fit in the machine. I know that's a problem with some ladies.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Look at Brett. He's 6'4". Look at Jamie. Like, she's what, 4'6". Like, it's like,
Jamie.
so like when these people try to use the same machines, shoot, they might not work for either one of them, because
Yes.
it's probably made for someone like me who's 5'9",
Who's
right in the middle.
Right.
So yeah, that's another very limiting factor about machines. And there's a ton of different machines. For a leg extension machine, you can have an entire warehouse filled of different style leg extension machines at this point. And finding one that works for you, it might not be at your gym. You might have to finagle something and work something. You might not have a hip thrust machine that works for you. You might have to do something on your leg extension machine. But like, it's tough, right? So like there's definite uses to machines, but like you just said, like, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself there, because you need to learn, you need to know how to use your body. And so many people don't.
Yeah, because you can learn to use it incorrectly by just relying on machines too much. Yeah. And I think machines also sometimes can lend to laziness when it comes to like really using your body. And a leg extension is a great example, where you're just like kicking your feet forward. You're feeling a burn in your quads because, it's just like, it's a simple movement. But maybe you're not thinking about what your pelvis is doing or your core or your upper body when you're like, where are you pulling yourself or holding yourself in the seat? What are your feet doing? Because all of those do play a role when it comes to like, especially if your goal is hypertrophy, kind of like sculpting the body and using it. And then I think for strength training, you're used to using your body as a whole. So just making sure you're taking that like training method to machines, I think is intelligent.
Yeah. And I really think they go hand in hand, right? Machines and free weights. I don't think that
so
you
too.
should do one without the other, honestly. Now, having said that, I grew up with free weights only. I had a barbell, I had a squat rack. It was a multi-machine, and it had a cable fly, it had a lat pull down, it had a low row. Not a cable fly, it had the old style machine.
The actual pec fly.
Yeah.
Where you actually only use your pecs.
Yeah, your elbows. It's not even, it didn't have handles. It had the pads for your forearms. But yeah, that's it. That's all I grew up with. I didn't have dumbbells. I didn't have anything else.
He still has it.
Yeah, I still have that. Yeah, I can't. Well, at this point, I can never get rid of it.
It will be there.
I now have
till the end.
six other squat racks. I still have this one, and that's the only one that's
Not
set up
Old
right
Faithful.
now.
We're keeping Old Faithful.
But yeah, that's what I grew up with, and I did pretty well, But when you're a kid and you're running around, I played 3 sports. I did landscaping for on my parents' piece of property, as well as our store, the gas station piece of property. I was perpetually outside using my body. I was perpetually working, doing labor. And when you grow up like that, I feel like free weights are probably going to be less restrictive, and I feel like they can probably be a little more conducive to growth. But I feel like the older we get, and especially we have to think about what society is today, right? And if like you and I, we're athletes, but we still spend the majority of our day inside and sitting down, right? It's so hard to like be active on a regular basis because of your work schedule, essentially, is what it boils down to. So yeah, it's just being cognizant of these things and being able to use each of these things specifically as a tool, and just understanding. I see so many people like hating on glute hyperextension machines or Smith machines or whatever it is, but like it's a tool, right? Like, you don't have a toolbox. You don't say this hammer is a piece of shit because it can't screw in this screw. That's not what it's meant to do, So
It isn't?
well, if you hit it hard enough, it'll put a screw in. so there you go.
I'm pretty sure I've seen DC use like 2.5 pound plates to hammer something into. Do you remember?
Well, if I have to persuade something, I've used
Also, we're on a budget, so
other tools of persuasion. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But yeah, just like understanding that all of these things are tools and trying to think about what this can do for you instead of, oh, that's a leg extension machine, right? Thinking about what it can do for you and trying to gain a comprehensive approach on all of the opportunities for advancement that this piece of machine provides for you, because it's not just quad growth, it's abdominal activation, it's kinetic chain connection, right? Like connecting your lower half with your feet, your ankles on that pad for the leg extension machine all the way up to your head, because you're getting nice and tall and you're sitting straight and you're getting your spine nice and rigid. So there's just so many things and just like you said, like I've done, with your shoulders, what are you doing with your shoulders? So I've sat there and pushed my arms forward, but I've also pushed my arms forward and then held that position as I went into shoulder extension and tried to maintain the same abdominal brace. So there's just a lot of things. And I know I do weird stuff. I hear about it all the time. Yeah, TC is a weirdo. He's not as big as he used to be. Now he just does a bunch of weird stuff. So I don't know if that's true or not, but
no, you do weird stuff in the gym.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to argue that one, but so that's a good point about just like using your body on a piece of machinery and be thinking about how you're using it.
That's the
towards
biggest,
your like specific goal.
the most important muscle you should be using in your workouts, your brain. Oh, right. You should be thinking about.
This is true.
What I've been saying recently to myself is, why are you here? Anytime I get distracted in the gym, why are you here? Is that what you're here for? Why are you here?
My gosh, you're the hardest coach.
I am, but on myself. I don't do that to other people. I don't berate people. Like, that's why.
No, you are.
When someone says I'm being mean, I'm like, oh man, you should hear what I say to myself. But yeah, I sit there like, why are you here, man? Stop doing that. This is what you're here for. So friggin' focus.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good point.
So, but yeah, use your brain, guys. And
my best training sessions have been with more integration of like using my thought processes in like evaluation and just like execution of the exercises. They've been more effective, I feel like, because I'm not just like, okay, well, this exercise should build this, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And okay, why isn't that muscle growing? Why am I growing traps? Why am I growing whatever, in a hypertrophy sense? So we need to be very intentional about how we're moving to get more efficiency out of the training session to then progress faster. And a lot of it takes a lot of time just learning your body. So using your tools appropriately, like we were saying, I think can help you move you in that direction.
Well, and I think a great example of kind of what we're talking about here is when athletes get frustrated with not making enough progress and they move to another coach, the workout program is probably going to look very similar.
I find that.
Yeah. And I think that the difference will come when the perspective is shifted surrounding your workout sessions, right? That athlete is going to continue to jump coaches until they find someone who shifts their perspective and gets them to be able to think more for themselves in the gym instead of waiting for someone else to tell them what to do and then saying, well, I did what you told me to do. Okay, you can go in and do 30 sets every single day and not make any part. Well, you're not going to make progress because that's way too much volume. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can go in and do the entire program that the best coaches in the industry will prescribe to you. But if you're just going through the motions and you're on your phone in between every set and you put your phone down, you do 10 reps real quick. Or even better, what I see is people on their phones as they're doing their reps. I'm like, what? So
Abduction machine.
yeah, it's crazy what people will do in this gym. So yeah, it's just very interesting, and it kind of saddens me a lot to see these people struggle, and especially to see people who work so freaking hard, and they don't understand why they're not getting the results they want, and it's because no one really works to understand the human body, right? Like, I feel like our education system has been designed to just like give people certain data points, and that's it. They take that and then they say, well, this is reality. This is black and white. It's this or it's not. And that's not how the body works, right? Your body is so intricate and complex that you can have trap pain and it could be something in the back of your shoulder, right? And people don't realize this. And then they're working on their trap, they're stretching their neck, they're rolling it out, they're going to get a massage, and they're telling them just focus on my traps, and nothing is helping it. And lo and behold, you put a lacrosse ball on the back of their shoulder, or better yet, in their, in here, in their lat, and it opens it up, and all of a sudden their pain's gone. But it's because people don't work to have a comprehensive knowledge of how the body works. Everyone's so focused on social media and what's going to go viral. And I mean, we were talking to Brett the other day, and he said something about, I think he reached out to someone and said, why are you posting this? This is trash.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe he commented, and the guy said, like, Brett, you got to give us a break. Like, it's not like it was when you were coming up, like, where you could post factual things and, gain some traction. We're just trying to figure out, like, post things that will get us exposure.
Well,
now,
that's the sad truth. And I feel like I am very fearful for a lot of people.
Yeah, because there's so much misinformation out there.
Because
people are just trying to get popular, and they'll do anything to do it.
Also, there's a lot of people who have no understanding of what they're doing, putting out information, but because they look a certain way.
Well, like that one guy talking about Brett's thing and then talking about how the hip thrust works, your hip flexors. It's like, what? So
the hip flex, and the sixth lift is the hip flexor. We're going to do the hip flexor? Oh my gosh.
Oh man. Yeah. So yeah, it's just people are silly. And I feel like so many people are just so scared to say, I don't know. I say that so much. I tell Chris all the time, babe, I don't know what I'm doing. It takes a real brave woman to be with me. I'll tell you.
We're going to figure it out.
Because we're going 300 miles an hour. And I look at you and say, I don't know what we're doing. What are you doing? What do you think we're doing?
Oh my gosh, the trust.
So, yeah. But yeah, so what I just want to encourage is just thought process behind these things. And I know that we're not done. Yeah, it's only 40 minutes. We're not done like talking about the pros and cons about machines and barbells, but I think the biggest takeaway point that I want you guys to take from this podcast is to think more. And if that means asking questions from Chris and I, then that's what it means. If it means spending more time just slowing down a little bit more through your warm-up sets to increase your proprioceptive feedback, do that. If it means practicing breathing, just practicing mindfulness by focusing on your breathing into your low back. And every exhale, you're getting some more abdominal activation. Every inhale, you feel muscles relaxing, which I know is generally backwards from what they teach. But I do a lot of things backwards.
Well, he'll test anything out.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe it. He'll test it.
Yeah. I try to get cursory knowledge, and then I put that knowledge to a test, and then I come up with my own conclusions.
Which I started doing too, which has brought some interesting conclusions.
Yeah.
Specifically about hypertrophy and bikini and strength training. And it's been...
Things are not black and white.
No.
They're not black and white.
And
guys.
I think that's hard because when I started coaching, you want to give everyone the right answers. You want to do all.
You want to know the rules so that you can play by them.
Yeah,
Kinda.
Yeah. I don't want to like mess up anybody's like body or their prep, or I want to do all the right things. So I'm trying to learn, and then you can get paralysis by analysis when there's conflicting information, or you can be too pigeonholed into specific ideology. I don't know if that's the right word, but like specific ideas about what should happen. And then when it's not happening, well, now what? And I think a better approach, whether a coach or athlete, is to look at how can I solve this problem, or how can I develop problem solving skills about the specific thing? How am I getting towards this goal? What makes sense? What is my body telling me? Just being more inquisitive through the process versus like, give me the answer.
Yeah.
Or I must have the answer.
Yeah.
Like, how about figure out the answer? And I feel like the best preps I have with athletes is when we're in a collaborative space where I'm tell me about your body. Tell me what you're experiencing. I'm not the end all be all, like, with all the answers here. Like, tell me what you're experiencing, and then they give me some information, and we can put our heads together. Because my job is to know as much as I can about the sport and their goal and their body. their job is to know the most about them and their body. And so if we put those two together, we can unlock a lot of things together. We're
Yeah.
getting on so many
Yeah.
tangents.
But it requires both sides of that,
Yeah.
And when we don't have athlete feedback, we can't do anything, and man, like as a hypertrophy coach, you're supposed to give someone program updates every 4 weeks. But if you haven't heard from them, like, how do you make a change?
Yeah, it's hard. You're shooting in the dark.
So I can, I'll swap some exercises out, but it's going to be a lot more efficient if you're telling me what's working, if you're telling me what's not working, if you're telling me what adjustments you're having to make, if you're telling me what you're feeling, if you're telling me what PRs you've hit. Like, there has to be interaction if you want efficient progress. And it's the same thing with your prep, right? But also, I feel like that what that interaction does for an athlete is it gives them buy-in, and it makes them understand that this process is not a black and white process, but it is something that is a living document, so to speak. It's
Sure, yeah.
it's almost like a guess and check experiment,
Take
right?
some ownership.
It's just a constant guess and check experiment.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, well,
That's how the body is, though.
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah.
body is not.
You might drop calories and lose weight. You might drop calories more and not lose any weight. You might eat 1,000 extra calories over the course of 2 days. You might lose weight the next day. Like, there's so many processes in the body that are more complex than people want to make them out to be. But it's because humans are so obsessed with knowing and saying, I know this. And
Well, I think people want like answers.
yeah. But like, that's just that. It all comes back to just understanding how the body works and understanding that your it's not a car. It doesn't need exactly 5 quarts of oil and 12 gallons of gas, right? It needs some fat right now because you were just under a lot of stress. It needs some carbs right now because you just went through some high activity. It needs a shit ton of protein every day because we need to maintain this muscle mass that we're trying to build. So it's just like there's so many variables, and it's yeah, okay, like you said like 10 minutes ago, we would get on like 10 different tangents. So back to machines and barbells.
Do you have some favorite machines that you like to use?
Recently, I've been really enjoying the Booty Builder hack squat. The vertical hack squat, I think it is. I think the horizontal is the one on the sides.
You can do it forward or reverse.
Yeah, and I've been doing it, I guess reverse, you could say, to simulate a
Sticking your butt out there for
heavy
everyone.
tire flip. Yeah. Yeah, but what it's allowing me to do is get my spine kind of more under the direct pathway of the resistance. Excuse me. And I actually started using my belt for my top sets too, which I haven't been doing because I've been trying to increase my abdominal integrity. But I started using my belt because it allowed me to, basically I'm using it as a tactile cue. I'm breathing in, I'm creating intra-abdominal pressure. And then once I feel that pressure against that belt, I squeeze and you feel which muscles contract. And if you only feel your back muscles contract when you think you're squeezing your abs in this intra-abdominal pressure position, then we need to reevaluate and bring that neuromuscular stimulation to the front side and engage those abs. So anyway, yeah, I've been enjoying that. I did the belt squat today. That was fun.
We both sit on the shoulder press backwards.
Yeah, the hammer strength in all the Planet Fitnesses.
I have never. It's been a very long time since I've sit on a shoulder press machine the correct way.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Someone told me once. Do you know they were supposed to sit the other way?
Yeah,
I said, yeah.
which is funny. Someone came up to me and asked me once, why do you sit backwards? So, but Julian Smith, I saw Julian Smith posted that.
It just makes more sense, the pathway for pressing to hit your delts. Also, I don't like, sometimes the back pads like force my spine to be like loaded in a weird way. And then I end up like, I don't feel like I can isolate my delts because it's like making me support myself in a way that doesn't feel right. I'd rather be like more upright.
I feel like that machine puts the emphasis on your anterior delts, which is going to put a lot of also pressure on the anterior rotator cuff, which most people are going to have problems with because most
When
people
you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, most people have rounded shoulders, whereas when you're doing it seated backwards, and you're facing the machine,
Yes.
I feel like it hits your lateral delt more.
I feel my anterior delts right now doing it this way.
Yeah,
And this way.
Yeah.
I feel my mid delt more.
you're recruiting your back more. Yeah, because you need your lats in the military press.
Yeah. Okay. That's. I was trying to think of like why am I like stabilization feels weird. But
And,
yeah,
and again, just kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the machines where it reduces the stability, it could be a good or a bad thing.
correct. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we want a little bit, but again, that's with machines, you can change it a little bit, right? With this shoulder press machine that we're talking about, we sit backwards. But sometimes if you want, you might want to turn around. Maybe at the end now I have tried it and I feel like it's harder. I don't like it.
Oh, really?
I turned around at the end of one of my workouts. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. So yeah, anyway, I do like hammer strength machines. I feel like they're pretty good, especially their plate loaded ones. They have some pull down machines. Actually, I think they make the pin and the plate loaded the same. Thinking about
Definitely
PDFs.
try machines out.
Yeah.
Try them out because you won't know until you try them.
But also don't write it off for the rest of your life. Right? I feel like there have been glute kickback machines that you're like, that is a piece of shit. And later on, you've gone back and you're like, oh, I actually kind of like that. You're like, I know I didn't like it before, but
Which one?
I don't remember right now, but I know it's happened. I feel like it's the one you're not going to remember. There's the Delray Planet Fitness. They have the hip thrust, the cable hip thrust thing in the corner. And then on the other side of that door, they have a
Just stop beating up the mic.
a kickback machine.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking
It
about.
has like a bar. It has a place for your forearms and like a bar for your foot. So
I don't know. I'm just spoiled from the glue lab at this point. But yes, you're correct. There's been ones, but I think that was a mobility issue. Some of those machines that I was not able to use correctly. I vaguely remember this.
probably an easier example would be when hip thrust, you stop feeling hip thrust in your glutes. I know that's a free weight exercise, but like you're going to go through processes.
There's
right?
machines for hip thrust.
You're going to go through chapters where something works and then it's not working for you.
Yeah.
Change it up. Change it up. It's the same thing with like hitting a plateau. Man, I was talking to this kid yesterday, the day before, and he's like, I've been stuck at 305 bench forever and I just can't break it. I said, stop using 45-pound plates. Start using 25s. Only put 25s on there.
Why?
He's like, really? That's what he said. I said, it's a mental game. You see that third plate getting loaded on that bar, and you know you've never hit that yet.
Oh.
But you get used to all of these 25-pound plates on the bar, and all of a sudden you just did 325, but you didn't realize it because you weren't even counting. You did your last set, and you said that felt really good, and you put another 10-pound plate on either side, and then you did that, and now you counted the weight, and now you see that was 325, and you just hit a new PR. Sometimes you got to trick your body a lot. Usually that happens to people with the 2-plate mark. I hear that a lot with 225.
Interesting.
I just can't hit 225. So, and that's
That strategy works well for our strong lifting.
yeah.
Do you have the males or no? It's just the females.
No, just the girls.
So the males know what they're.
Actually, I did
You did?
a couple times, but the guys have an ego and they like to know that they're about to do this weight. They don't get as intimidated as girls. Girls get very intimidated very easily, and they're always telling me I can't do that.
That's true. I do hear that a lot out of my own mouth. Too. Let's just be real. So if you're not familiar with.
No, Lena told me yesterday. She was like, she had 315 on there. I can't walk that out. I said, you squat 285. You can walk 315 out.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with strong lifting or powerlifting, you have like one lift to start. So it starts with squat, and you get 3 attempts. So you have your first attempt up there, you go perform the lift, and then you have to come back to the score table and let them know what your second attempt is. Same thing for the third attempt. So you have to make decisions in the middle of your competition day. And usually you gauge it off of how you're feeling, what you know you've hit before. If you have a coach like DC, he like basically maps out like options for
Every
you.
possibility possible ever.
red, yellow, green. Like, how are you feeling? Which one should you go to? That was actually like really helpful. But then we didn't end up using it because DC would just go pick the numbers for us. And sometimes there was a conversation. Like, you would ask, like, how did you feel?
Especially if I like missed seeing the lift. Because what I'm seeing is going to be more indicative. If I see that weight fly up, it doesn't matter if you tell me it's heavy. You're going up in weight.
You still ask.
Yeah, I do. I always do because I want them to feel like they're.
Yeah, they're included in the conversation. Yeah. Then he makes the call of what the weight is, and I was getting to the point of like tricking your brain, and the weight being intimidating on the bar, because I hit PRs in my first first and only strong lifting event, and I had no idea what I was lifting. And at the Arnold, I remember Lena turning around and saying, "How much was that?" Because by knowing the number or seeing the plates, like it sometimes gets intimidating, and then you start psyching yourself out.
That's what you're thinking about instead of just thinking about
Yeah, like,
performing.
oh, okay, this is going to be heavy. I have not done this before. I'm not sure that I can do it because I haven't experienced like performing this before. But if you don't know, and also it helps if you train on pound plates and then you go compete with kilo plates
Yeah,
because you
'cause
really don't know what's going on. Then you just go out there and you just know each time it's going to be a little bit harder, but you don't have the number to associate it with.
Well, yeah, and most of the time I do the third attempt, and they don't know
Don't give away your secrets
what.
of like how you pick numbers and stuff like that.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm just saying, like most of the time, the athletes they generally like to be involved in the second attempt. They want to help pick the second attempt.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, but then the third attempt, after Worlds, where I did that, and we planned on me just doing the third attempt, and then at the Arnold, I said, okay, what do you think? And they would just like look at me. It's like, okay, get out of here.
Or you say, how'd it feel? Good.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for someone, I want to say it was Galaxia or Janelle. It was Galaxia or Janelle. And I think it was their bench press. And we talked and we were like, okay, so we're going to do 110, right? And they did one. And then so I wrote 110 on there. And they walked away and Q looked at me. He said 112.5. Because after the second attempt.
Q was the guy at the score table writing the numbers in.
Yeah, after the second attempt, I looked at them. I said, I don't care what she says. We're going to 112.5 for her third attempt. So,
Yeah.
so then she walked away. I put 110, then we crossed out, put 112.5. She got it.
She did get it. And
Yeah.
she didn't even know that she got that lift until the whole second session was done. So she's now done squat, bench, and deadlift. So bench is like way in history. And we're sitting down at the break. And I'm like, do you guys know what numbers you did? They're like, no. I'm like, well, let's look. And then they're like, what? So it's like a fun surprise to be like, wow, I didn't know. And yeah, that's how you get the PR and stuff like that. So yeah, anyways, so tricking your brain. I don't know how I got on that topic, but well, it kind of leads into barbell training because it requires a different, some different, I think, mental shifts. And that was something like that I had to learn over this like past year of like how to use a barbell. And I think some really like low hanging fruit for stability or reasons that barbell training is good is for the opposite of why Smith or machines might not be. So stability is integral. You have to be using your whole body, tiny little muscles. Like you have to be working like as a cohesive whole unit. So it does train you to one, move in space, work on your stabilizer muscles, have better total body control, which has very directly related to posing that I'm seeing with some of these bikini competitors.
Yeah.
If you know how to use your body,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to command it better on stage for your presentation as well. So, and that's not just bikini competitors. We've seen that with other athletes as well. But there are a ton of benefits to putting a barbell on your back, doing some bench press, learning how to deadlift.
Yeah, learning how to brace your body against gravity
Yeah.
is what it boils down to.
It's
because that's the resistance in free weights is gravity, right? Yes, it's the weight, but it's gravity against that weight that is providing that resistance against your kinetic chain of your body.
I feel like it forces you to train your core differently than you would doing anything else.
Yeah.
So that's where some people make the argument of like, well, barbell training will make my waist really wide and my core really thick. And it can if you're doing things a specific way. If you are being very cognizant, again, using your brain when you're in the gym about how you're activating your core, then you're going to train your core in a different way, which can be beneficial to how it's looking on a bodybuilding stage, for example.
Yeah.
Because I have never had abs, and I'm like, I weighed 138, I think, this morning. Never, ever, ever have I had like abdominal definition of any kind, really pretty much at any weight. We'll just be honest, I've not really had abs. But to have that at a higher body fat and a higher weight is telling me that my core is being challenged in a different way. And I still measure my waist to make sure that we're not like, falling into territory of like getting a blockier waist. And it's still the same.
Yeah.
So again, it's like how you integrate barbell training.
Yeah.
And I think it does a lot. It's done a lot for my core. It's done a lot for my spine. I have 30-degree curve in my thoracic spine. So it's crazy looking, but that is a huge weak point in like how I move and my posture, and it's done a lot for helping me learn to stabilize and use my weaker side as well. So yeah, that's my speech. Barbell training. What do you think? You hate it.
I agree with everything you
I
said.
grew up with barbells.
Yeah. So barbell training.
Benefits. Or negatives.
First of all, yeah. Well, first of all, let me touch on the waist thing. When we're training for hypertrophy, how often do you see people doing like isometrics? Not very often, right? If you're trying to get big muscles, you're probably not going to just sit there in a squat stance and then walk out and say my glutes are burning. They're probably going to be twice as big tomorrow. So I think that's one important thing to remember about your abdominals. And if there is excess movement in your midsection, the external abdominal muscles have to become stronger, which means they have to be bigger than they actually need to be because your TA is not doing what it's supposed to do. And I think that that's where you see the big, like the blown out powerlifter midsection is when they become too overly reliant on their belt instead of their TA. Now, having said that, I'm not saying don't use a belt. You should.
There's time and a place.
You should learn how to use it, though.
Yeah.
We need to learn how to activate the TA first, and then we can use a belt to aid in the TA. But we have to maintain that tall and tight cue through that midsection to keep the TA activated. And when you can minimize movement, when there's no movement through your midsection, your muscles, they're going to continue to get stronger. They're going to get stronger, but they're not going to get much bigger. They're not going to get as much bigger as they're going to get stronger, right? And this is evidenced by powerlifters. There are powerlifters that weigh sub 150, deadlifting 700 plus pounds. How? It's because you can improve strength potential without increasing muscle size. Mm-hmm. And if you understand how these mechanisms work, we can maximize these things for various parts of your body, and formulate your training program to capitalize on each of these different aspects of strength versus hypertrophy training, to bring you to whatever your goal is, right? Whether it's powerlifting or bodybuilding, doesn't really matter. It's going to have both elements of volume hypertrophy work and intense strength training work. And if you don't have both of those things, you don't have a comprehensive program and you're going to plateau. I guarantee it. It's just going to happen. It will happen. And that's best case scenario, I think. Worst case is you're going to start going backwards. And I think that's, we've experienced that in the past.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about core for barbells.
Oh yeah, and just like blowing out core. Okay, so I think that's enough. I don't really need to touch too much on that. I just want to say, look up the transverse abdominis muscles. Understand what they are. Understand that that's what you want to activate. It's your corset. That's what you want to activate when you're starting to brace. In anything, if you're on a machine, think about activating your TA, and then activate your rectus and your obliques on top of it. But really capitalize on that TA activation to make sure that you're capitalizing on strength adaptations of keeping your spine rigid and stable and unmoving through these movements, whether it's a squat, a bench, and deadlift, hip abduction, hip adduction, pull over machine, a lat pull down. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're making an abdominal exercise, you're going to have better results. Guaranteed. I guarantee it.
Yeah, and it's how you're using it. And I think that's a good example of what we were talking about prior, of like learning one thing. I was taught it from the beginning, a belt will keep your waist small. So anytime you're touching a weight, you're wearing a weightlifting belt in the gym. And so I did that for a long, long time. And then
Waist trainers.
waist trainer was another one. And I still believed that. I believed it. And also, it was like almost like fear. Like if I didn't have this, then my waist was going to get big. And I don't know. Then I started dating this crazy person sitting across from me who started challenging my thought processes, or like more or less like looking into why do we think that that is true? Like why would a belt make your waist small, and why would a waist trainer make your waist small? And can you? But then we were seeing other problems on stage, like people not being able to control their core or getting fatigued in their
Back pain.
midsection. I had terrible back pain.
That's the only reason you listen to me, is because I had openings.
I couldn't not
You
take
didn't
it
do well on your
anymore.
show, and you had back pain. So without those two things, you would not have listened to me. We would not be here today.
We all hit our breaking point. We're like, okay, maybe this isn't working.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay that like you learned one way, but it's also okay to like challenge it. And
Yeah.
especially if you're running into problems, like, do I want to continue doing this? And then I started looking at how training was actually affecting my core, and I fought him on barbell training for a really long time. I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I worked really hard to get this waist this small. And then I don't know, I just decided that I wanted to try some new things. And
We started with deadlifts because you always liked deadlifting.
yeah,
But when we met, you told me you'd never do a barbell back squat because of your back. So that's what we did. And we started with the wagon wheel deadlifts at the shop gym years ago.
that's right. Yeah.
But mostly it was just core, and it was getting your body back to a comfortable position where you can grow from, right? If we're constant discomfort, you're not going to grow very efficiently. You might be able to grow a little bit, but your body's going to be constantly fighting and focusing on this discomfort, not growth. So we wanted to put your body back in a better place, and then you hurt your neck, and so it was just, again, it was one thing after the next that led you to like be, okay, fine, just tell me what to do.
Yeah. I was getting so frustrated. My body was like just breaking down.
Yeah, and we were, very close quarters, so I was able to work with you often. So yeah, we made a lot of progress in those first few years, and then once your deadlift started taking off, and then I think being at the glue lab helped
Yeah.
give your confidence for some squats.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all squatting. Why can't I do that? But yeah, it was a combination of things.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I think the bench press probably made you more comfortable for the squat, because you've said that the bench press has helped you get better abdominal activation than a lot of other exercises.
It's so weird that has worked, but it has.
Yeah.
I feel like was posing this morning. I watched me be able to like pull my waist
Yeah.
in, and I could tell when I wasn't doing it. So it just like,
And it's not, it's when she says pull my waist in, we're not just sucking it in, right? It doesn't look like you're sucking it in. It's literally activating your TA, which is contracting a muscle. So it's going to bring that muscle in, right? And it's contracting that, and it's bringing that waistline in. So it's tall and tight, right? That's what we're thinking about. We're elongating that spine, and we're bringing the abdominal muscles in.
so everyone's afraid of their obliques, but there's actually, your TA wraps around that area, and you can bring that in to make your waist smaller. So again, you're always going to be learning something. This is not like the end all be all. We know all of the things, but it's just a lesson in like challenge some things, like think it through. Like just don't get locked in and this is how I have to do things. And I think the better way to do it also is to like have conversation.
Yeah.
Like just talk to someone that you like respect their knowledge, or ask them their experience, and those types of conversations I think sometimes can really help gather information so then you can evaluate for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just accept the body's complexity, and understand that you're never going to know everything about any body process. Right?
We don't say that you don't say you know everything.
No.
I definitely just don't think that
Yeah.
I know everything.
Like I said, I say I don't know all the time, and I try to have some good answers. But not a lot of times. Sometimes people ask me a question, and I'll sit there and think about it, and I'll give them an answer. And I'll say, but I'm not sure. I've never thought about that. And I'll be thinking about it. And Andrew and Jacob texted me one day, and I forgot what he was having that back pain. And I was in Planet Fitness one morning. It was like 6:15 in the morning, and I just this answer popped into my head, and I shot him a text. And I'm like, hey, I was just thinking about this, blah, 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 blah. Because that's how it works. Like sometimes you don't know, and sometimes you have to go try some stuff out, and you have to think about it, and you've got to marinate it, and you got to talk to someone about it. And Pete told me about this guy at MIT who told him about rubber ducking, right? And sometimes just talking out a problem can help you bring yourself to the answer to that problem. And that's what it's called, rubber duck, because you can just sit there and talk to a rubber duck, because it doesn't matter. You don't need feedback. You just need to get these ideas out of your head and get them. Like, I like to use pen and paper. I like to get, like, if I have like a drawing or something, I have to get it out of my head and put it down so I can look at it and continue looking at it from now a new angle. And I think it's the same thing here. So yeah, just understand that your journey, everyone wants things to be easy. It's not going to be easy. Everyone wants things to be simple. It's not going to be simple. So if you understand those two concepts and you're just looking for your next opportunity for improvement, you're going to continue improving, right? And if you're looking at how this machine or this free weight exercise can bring you closer to your goal, and if you don't understand it, that doesn't mean that opportunity is not there, right? Just because you don't see how doing this barbell RDL is going to bring you closer to your goals, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So ask a question, right? If your coach programs something for you and you're unsure, ask a question.
Yeah.
I said that one specifically because I've put that in upper body programs in the past as my second compound lift. And the rest of the day was upper body. They're like, why am I doing this? Because that's your abdominal exercise, right? But people don't look at that as an abdominal exercise. But if it's a barbell RDL, like there's a lot of stability that has to go into play. And yeah, we're still going to get some glute activation. And now when you go to do your glute accessory work, your stabilizer muscles are hyperactivated. So you're able to keep your pelvis more stationary, and anchoring one side of your muscle is the best way to build and isolate that muscle, right? If you're working your glutes and neither side of your glute is anchored and you're bending at your low back and you're trying to do hip extension, you're not going to work your glutes very efficiently, right? But if you can anchor your pelvis in one spot in space and have the top end of that glute anchored and just completely immovable, then all of that contraction and relaxing is going through that singular muscle like you want it to be. And all of that work is getting put exactly where you want it to be, instead of building that bigger waist because you're flexing and extending through your low back and your obliques are now getting worked because you're opening and closing and you're not stabilizing properly and blah, blah, blah. So
Yes, I would say that like ways that barbell training has helped with hypertrophy are a lot of like core and stabilization things. Also, yeah, pelvis. And so core and pelvis are going to be like closely tied all the time.
no one knows where their pelvis is.
Oh my
Everyone's
gosh.
searching for it. Everyone's looking for it.
And I had to learn. I'm like, no, there's no way I'm like doing this incorrectly right now. And then I have to go back and look at video and listen to cueing and try. And really I'm thinking specifically of like bikini competitors, because that's the vein of where I'm seeing like a lot of pelvis instability. We're all like arching our low backs to pose. Okay, females in general, we're all arching our low backs to pose, get that selfie for Instagram. Like, we just want our glutes to be out there. Maybe that's not everybody, but there's some of us. And we are then losing control of our pelvis when we're training, because it does not look as beautiful to be like tucking your tailbone under you, especially if you don't just have a bubbly butt. It just doesn't look that great. It's not.
It's not what you see on Instagram.
Yeah, it's not. But if you are able to control posterior pelvic positioning, so like tucking your tailbone under, I guarantee, and that correlates with contracting your abs.
Yeah.
So if you try right now to just like tuck your tailbone
Which
under,
generally it happens. You stick your butt out and you loosen your abs.
you elongate your abdominals.
Yeah.
So being able to like contract your abdominals and tuck your tailbone under, like that's a very specific position, which creates a ton of rigidity when it comes to, I'm thinking about squat right now in a barbell training, which
and it becomes, holding that position is difficult for people in things like the hip thrust, because your hip flexors are super tight. Your psoas and your iliacus are super tight because you're used to being in that anterior pelvic tilt. So that hip, hip joint is used to being slightly flexed at all times. So people don't have true hip extension availability.
Yes.
And then they try to do these kickbacks and you see all the time. Your low back is moving.
Yeah.
Everyone's. Now, no, not you. You do a very good job at it.
Oh, thanks, babe. But no, I had to learn because I
exactly.
was doing it incorrectly,
Yeah.
and I was looking for movement in the wrong places. You can still feel glute pump, like you can still
Yeah.
feel glute activation, but if again you can cause rigidity and just really isolate that muscle, you're going to put more tension on it, and you're going to be able to.
It's going to work it better. Just remember, there's always more, right? Like, look, when I pulled 805, I didn't think I made it. I know how to deadlift. What I was thinking was, what can I do better to make that lockout more solid? That's what I was thinking, because there is always more. So no matter how good of a glute pump you're getting on those kickbacks, if you make yourself more stable, you'll be able to push more weight and you'll be able to get bigger glutes. So there's always more.
Which that posterior pelvic tilt I use on the hack squat. now,
Yeah,
too. So it's
yeah.
not just barbell training. I had to learn it through that because it forced me to be like, wow, I feel really unstable, or that this doesn't feel great on my back, or it's not about like sticking your butt back as far as you can and sitting down. Like I have to like create this like movement through my whole entire body, and then I can translate that onto machines where then I can work on isolation work, and now I get on the hack squat and I do
Yeah.
that, and my glutes, I get a glute pump, my hack squat.
Yeah. Because you can stabilize that tailbone, you stabilize that pelvis, and all that work is going into those glutes.
Where prior to that, I would be like, man, my quads are like burning like crazy, and I'm feeling nothing in my glutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think for hypertrophy purposes, there's a lot of translation. It does take a lot of time. People sometimes don't want to learn how to move properly, or they're like, this is not directly growing my glutes, or this is not directly growing my delts.
Yeah.
This is kind of like,
I don't want to do hip cars because I just want big glutes. I don't care about this. Okay, well.
there's a lot of things that are like kind of like a step-by-step process that lead to now better hypertrophy sessions or hypertrophy exercises. So, yeah, it's tough.
I think another one way to say that is the elite level athletes will always be doing things that average athletes don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right? So you get to pick what tier you sit on as an athlete. You get to choose that. And some people will say, "Oh, my genetics and this, that, and the other." I understand genetic limitation.
Sure.
But I also think that people lean too heavily on that. I was not an athlete growing up. I was not a football player. But I told you the story. I was on the sidelines when I was 8 years old, and tears running down my face every single game. We had 8 games that year.
Weren't you the youngest person on this football team?
Yeah, it was a 9 through 12 football team.
Yeah.
I was 8 years old.
Okay.
But Max was on the football team. He was playing. He was a center. But it didn't matter. I didn't care. All I knew was that I wasn't playing. I wasn't good enough to play.
Oh, young TC.
So that was it. That was the last year I didn't play. That was the last year I didn't start. From then on, I worked my freaking balls off to make sure that I had value somewhere. I was never the fastest person on the team. I was never the biggest person on the team. But I was a
You were
pillar.
valuable to the team. Yeah.
So you just understand that just because you can't be the biggest or the strongest or the fastest does not mean that you can't excel. It doesn't mean that, yeah, you might have to work a little harder than Michael Jordan to be a good. That's actually not true. He didn't make his high school basketball team. So he had to work his ass off too, but you might not be as good as some of these people who are just genetically gifted. I mean, you look at Laura Lee, right? She was 20 years old when she was on the Olympia stage,
Yeah.
So
Michael Jordan and Laura Lee. Let's get them on the podcast.
well, Arnold's next. So.
Okay. Arnie.
Yeah, Arnie. Yeah. So anyway, just don't give yourself limitations. That's another thing I hate about our allopathic healthcare system is that they hand out diagnoses in order to hand out prescriptions to make money, and it turns people into saying, "Well, I'm blah blah blah, so blah blah blah," instead of using that. Okay, I grew up with my mom telling me all the time I'm on the friggin' spectrum all the time. So that instead of just using that and saying, well, I don't know how to communicate, so I don't have to do that. Instead of doing that, I said, well, if that's the case, that means communication's subpar. And I don't understand why. But if it's because I'm autistic, then that's what's happening. It's my thing that I have to work through. It's not unnatural for someone to have emotions about something, right? It's not unnatural for someone to feel a certain way or to do this or do that. So I came to terms with it, right? And that's, you start looking through life through that lens, or you look through the lens of a victim, and you play that, and you use that as your own anchor that you just attached to your ankle. Why do that to yourself? God made each and every one of us individually on purpose. So whatever your purpose is, that's what it is. And you are perfectly good enough for that. So digress. Okay. Back to, barbell and machine training.
We always come back.
So I want to make one differentiation between, like barbell and dumbbell training.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure how familiar our listeners are with open chain versus closed chain exercises. But essentially, when you have a barbell in your hands, it is still a closed chain exercise because your two hands can work against each other. Whereas in a dumbbell, so like, let's just take the bench press, for example.
Doesn't it matter if your feet, what's happening with your feet?
Yeah. What are you just floating?
I was picturing someone with a barbell laying on a bench with their feet in the air. That's what I was picturing.
Yeah, closed chain is your feet and your hands are on something stable, basically. Or, both sides of your kinetic chain. So like a squat, like your feet are on the ground, your barbell on the shoulders. But if you look at a dumbbell bench press, you can't get the torsional stability into your shoulders.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That you can get from a barbell, right?
Yes.
Because in a barbell, you can, there's a cue, bend the bar. Same thing with your squat, bend the bar. Mm-hmm. But with dumbbells, you bend the bar, you just turn your hands around, right? Yeah. So it's different, and that's why, generally speaking, you can't press as much as you can with dumbbells versus barbells. So even amongst free weights, there are still varying levels of instability, right? Like all my TC exercises. So
famous TC exercises.
Yeah, the last foundation block for our Arnold competitors, we had them do some Bosu ball, unilaterally loaded Bosu ball squats. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of not a lot, but there were new stability exercises in there. Like hip cars, zombie squats.
Yeah, zombie rack front squats, the Bosu ball unilaterally loaded squats. But they're meant to build your proprioception with your hips, right? And when you're on this Bosu ball and you have this weight in your hand, you're thinking about bracing. And okay, you finally get it to where this Bosu ball stops moving around. And then you start your squat and it starts moving around again, and it's going wild, or it's tilting to one side and it tilts to that side the entire time. So, and then you switch hands and it still tilts that side. So now we know that we have a bias towards one side of our stability in our core, which is most people. So now we can try to keep the top of that. Oh, and your Bosu ball is upside down. The round part is on the ground. You can try to keep the top of the flat part of this parallel with the ground during your entire squat. And now we are recruiting the anti-rotational core stability muscles, and also your erectors in a more even fashion, right? And now we're starting to alter the neuromuscular recruitment. So,
which Galaxia said after her squats at the event, she said, "My squat felt the strongest it's ever felt. It must have been all those TC exercises," which was good. She was implementing what was in her program, and she saw the benefit of it. So,
yeah. The block after your competition, whether you're a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, it's going to be different than you're used to.
Oh, it's so annoying. Different. It's different. I mean, not annoying, just different.
But generally after a competition, my powerlifters are like, "Oh man, I'm like so beat up. Like, heavy squats or bench or deadlift, whatever, doesn't sound appetizing right now." And by the end of the 5-week foundation block,
can't wait.
you're ready. Yeah, you're ready to get back into
it.
that
Does work.
thing, so.
It does
You got to shift. But again, like we're talking about right now, like machines versus barbells versus dumbbells versus free weights versus calisthenics, there's a use for all of them. How to use them, it comes down to understanding what your goal is and what each of these things can offer to your goal.
Okay, so on that topic, because I've talked a lot about like how I felt barbell training and machine training helped with hypertrophy. So how does machine work? How would you implement that for an athlete focused on strength and performance versus barbell or something like that?
I use machines to attack weaknesses,
Okay.
extremity weaknesses, generally speaking. For powerlifters, your goal is a strong midsection, right? And I would even argue that for bodybuilders too, because you have to have a strong, proud presentation. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is with a strong torso, a strong core, strong erectors, strong lats. But with a powerlifter, you get one shot. And I don't know anyone out there listening, if you do heavy reps, generally your second rep feels better than your first one. It's because your body's locking it in. It's going down that neuromuscular pathway. It's more familiar. You're getting some stretch reflex out of it to help. And as you've gone through the motion, your eccentric has activated a few more percentage of muscle fibers in all the muscle groups that you're using. Powerlifters have to come up, set up, and perform a perfect rep at maximum intensity.
Right there.
And that's it. That's all you get. You get one chance.
Yeah.
You don't get two chances. So most of their training will be geared around stability and building stability in their kinetic chain. So they're going to have more of the pain in the ass exercises like the Bosu ball squats and the zombie rack front squats and stuff like that. But machines, I think, are very beneficial to perpetuate stability positions, right? But you have to have specific instructions, right? We want to do this leg extension, leaning forward, bracing your abs, pulling your neck back, for example. And then I also think that they can be beneficial in, like I said, perpetuating the stability patterns. We can then take it one step further and move to something like a Smith machine and continue to work on locking your form in against the resistance. And that's kind of hard to explain. I mean, it's basically like pre-tensioning the bar in a deadlift.
Okay.
And learning how to brace yourself against that closed chain of something like a Smith machine. Because since that Smith machine is immovable, you can push against it differently than you can just a regular barbell. So you can activate musculature differently. Sure. And your body has multiple different stabilization and movement pathways. And it has a couple different general movement pathways, like internal stability, external stability. And most people nowadays are like, they're internally rotated. So their adductors are super tight. Their abs are turned off because they're always hunched over. And their external stability is severely lacking. And anytime they try to move into hip abduction or extension or shoulder extension, their low back arches because they don't have the core strength. And true strength, true stability comes when you can activate both of those pathways simultaneously. You have to be able to externally rotate your femurs while you're also pulling in and bracing your adductors and your abs against that pull. And being able to do that is hard. It takes a lot of practice. Just like pushing maximum exertion takes practice. You know, no one's going to be able to just walk into a gym and perform their true strength 1 rep max on any exercise. No one will be able to. You'll be able to work up to the top rep that you can work that day, but that's not your true ultimate strength potential. I tell people all the time, like, I see right now you are strong enough to deadlift 500 pounds. We just need to get a couple of these things in place. I see it. you know, and it's just like me, like my PR when I hit 805, my PR was 750 at that point. I was strong enough to do more, but my form and my stability was still lacking. And then when I dialed it in that day, I pulled 765 and I felt it. I knew it. I knew I was dialed it in as exactly where I needed to be. So I loaded up to 800 and it moved. So very often people get caught up in just trying to push more weight because they think linear progression is the key. People get caught up in just going through the exercises because they think checking off the boxes is the key. It all comes back to using your brain. Use your brain. Don't be a robot. Use your brain. And continue to use your brain, right? You're going to have some days where you're going to the gym, you just don't feel like it. You just want to go in and get a pump. You're having a shitty day. You just want to get some endorphins.
Yeah.
That's fine. But don't be very careful about allowing that to perpetuate because that's happened to me. And then all of a sudden it's a week later. Now I'm trying to do something heavy and I tweak my back. Why? Because now I'm just going to the gym and I'm working out again. I'm not focusing on what I'm supposed to be focusing on.
Sure.
So, yeah, this is just TC's rambling session, apparently.
No, that's very applicable of like, why would a strength training athlete want to use machines? Why don't you just stay within your
You need variety is really what it boils down to,
squat,
right?
bench, deadlift? Like, why would you try to do something else?
Like after your competition, I would like for you to do a bunch of machines because it's lower CNS fatigue, right? Heavy compound lifts, ton of central nervous system fatigue, a ton. And I don't care what they say. I don't care that they say that CNS fatigue is not real. Do a powerlifting meet and drink 1,000 milligrams caffeine.
No, don't do that. Don't do that, everyone. Don't do that.
Tell me that you're not tired the next day and the day after that and the day after that. So, having said that, I think I've worked out the day after every single powerlifting.
Yeah, I know a couple of people.
done
We were
squats
talking about
the day
this
after
yesterday at the
every
glute lab. The people who work out the next day, the crazies.
Yeah.
But okay, this is good. So do you have general rules for how you would structure barbell training and machine training, like whether it's hypertrophy or strength? Like how would you, if someone wants to implement both, what would be some general guidelines to help set up a workout?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So, because barbell training is going to be more fatiguing, I would put that closer to the beginning of your workout. I have been utilizing lat pull downs or pullovers. There's a pullover machine at EOS I really like. So I've been using one of those two as a warm up for my compound lift. Whatever I'm doing that day, I go and I do like 10 sets of pull downs. But that's because that's what my workout is focusing on. If you're using it for a warm up, you can do like 2 or 3 sets of like 20, 25 reps. And it should be getting hard towards the end, right? Like we want to pick a weight that is challenging, but you can get some reps in with, because we want it to be challenging so that it can stimulate blood flow, but we want it to be light enough so that you can really focus on your form and putting your body in the position that you want to keep it in for your compound lifts.
Because you don't want to fatigue too much.
Yeah,
you want to wake
but you
it
want
up.
to activate, exactly.
That's
yeah.
what I find that helps me. I need to wake some like certain muscles up.
Yeah.
I'm figuring that out.
And then when you get up, you should feel tall. You should feel activated. You shouldn't feel hunched over when you get up off of like a lat pull down machine or something. You should feel tall because while you're doing the pull downs, you should be making your neck as tall as possible. You should be trying to peek through that window.
Oh my gosh, creeper. Well, so like a lot of times starting with mobility work or
Yes.
warm up work, and then you're preparing for the compound lifts where you're going to have the most energy expenditure.
Yeah, so I was kind of moving backwards there. So, but yeah, compound lift is towards the beginning of your workout. Do some sort of, I would say lat, glute, and abdominal activation, probably no matter what compound lift you're doing. And then before that, like you said, is your mobility work, which is not just static stretching, right? In the beginning of your exercises, the beginning of your workout, your mobility work should be movement.
Lateral hip shifts.
Yeah.
Hip airplanes.
Lateral hip shifts, hip airplanes. You can do walking lunges. You could do stuff like that.
Wall slides.
I was just thinking of what I do, and
Kneeling
I do
rotation.
sit there and
Thoracic.
breathe beforehand. But
Thoracic bicep.
so the reason I don't know what she's talking about, guys.
Write this down.
The reason I was, they say not to do the static stretching beforehand is because, the breathing can activate your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes,
It can relax you and calm you down. Excuse me. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. We want to try to get the blood flow, get your breathing elevated.
What about dynamic stretching?
Yeah.
That
but
helps me.
that's mobility work,
Oh, okay.
right? Like the walking heel things,
Oh, yeah.
like
Or
that,
stretch
the
your
zombie
hamstrings.
walks or whatever, Frankenstein walks. Yeah, yeah. Those are like lizard walks or bear crawls. I mean, that's all mobility work. No one sees it like that because generally speaking, like when someone says mobility, they think yoga. And that's not really what mobility is. Mobility is improving the strength throughout your entire range of motion in any given joint capacity, right?
So use things you said to wake up your core, your lats, and your glutes before a compound lift.
Yeah, because that's what ties your core together.
A couple sets, light enough where you can not fatigue yourself too much, but you're getting some blood flow there and you're feeling the activation.
Yeah.
So I do a banded body weight hip thrust before I do sumo deadlifts now. I discovered that worked really well.
Yeah. Band around your knees.
Yeah.
Right. Not yeah.
And I just use like a bench and I just do like 15, 20 reps. Very slow. Well, not very slow, but slow enough to make sure that I'm concentrating on getting my glutes working. And then all my sumo deadlifts are much better.
Yeah. 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 And that's
They're
the thing
like,
is
oh, we should be working in this exercise? Yes. Not just your
learning
back.
learning how to what to incorporate. Because you don't want a bunch of junk volume, right? I can give you an hour and a
Yeah.
half of mobility stuff
Yes,
before your
yes.
deadlifts, and then you're like, oh shit, well now I have to leave. I can't do my workout.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so it's like a fine line, right? We want the minimal effective dosage. That's what we want to do when it comes to any kind of training, whether it's mobility, hypertrophy. You want the minimal effective dosage, and then if there's something that you love doing, you can learn how to incorporate that more. Unfortunately, for people like me, I just love squatting and deadlifting heavy, and you can only do that so much. you can't do anything more often than you want, but I digress.
So then you get your body primed, you do your compound lift.
And then you move into your accessories, and that's where you're going to. You can use dumbbells or machines here.
Or cables.
Yeah, those are machines.
Wild card.
That's a machine.
Oh,
Well, I call it a machine.
okay. And focus on stuff that correlates with your compound lift that you just did. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and now this is going to depend on what your goals are, right? If you are a bikini athlete who is 4 weeks out from a show, let me back up. Generally speaking, I prescribe your mobility warm-up routine, a primer exercise, 2 compounds, and around 3 accessories. And that's a very, very basic outline. That's not black and white. There's obviously exceptions. If you're a bikini athlete and you're like 4 weeks out from your show, you're probably only going to do 1 heavy compound lift and then 4 accessories instead of 2 and 3. And that compound lift might be a machine hip thrust. It might not be. You might not be doing any free weight activity at this point.
Sure. Because we're paying attention to your recovery.
Yeah, we're still looking at tall and tight. We're still looking at abdominal activation. We still want to incorporate things like, just say it again, Smith machine RDL, right? Because it's kind of a barbell lift, but it's kind of not. It's kind of machine. You have a little bit of stability. You're able to pull back a little bit more. It takes a little bit less mental effort to do this, and that's what we need, right? You don't have as many calories to do mental processes of thinking and working. So we want to prioritize which one we want to do. And when we're that close to an event, we just want to do. And it's the same thing with powerlifters, right? When you're 4 weeks out from an event, man, if you have 2 accessory lifts, that's a lot. Usually I have 2 compounds and 1 accessory for powerlifters who are 4 weeks out from an event.
Okay.
And then as we get closer, we incorporate more SBD days, less accessory work. 2 weeks out from an event, you're not doing any accessories. You're only squat, benching, deadlifting.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, obviously it's always going to matter where you are in your training block and what your goals are. But what I would say is to try to put your either your free weight, your heavy free weight compound lifts, or lifts that you want to grow the most, right? If you have tiny calves, you want big calves, you got to go in there and do 5-10 sets of calf raises before you do anything else. Before you get tired of doing anything else, you go in there and you put all of your energy towards building this lagging body part that you want to build. And that's what I've been doing. Every time I go to the gym, I start with lats and pecs and shoulders, and then I move on to the rest of my workout. But I'm getting a pump on my weak musculature so that I can then go and continue building. So, does that
Excellent.
answer your question?
Yeah, that does. I think that sums up pretty much a lot of our ideas about machines and barbell work.
It depends, is what the answer is.
Really, not one is better. Both have their place, and kind of like TC was saying in the beginning, like you want to use all the tools in the toolbox. It's just a matter about using them appropriately.
Yeah. And if you don't have one of these tools yet, go to Home Depot and get one of these tools. Honestly, like you should know how to use, barbell training. You should know how to use machines. Like, don't be scared. Don't be afraid of doing these things, because I told Chris, like, growing up, Max and I would always say to each other, like, jokingly, first step, don't be scared.
Oh yeah, so cute.
But it's true. That is the first step in anything that you're doing, is don't be scared. And you know what? You're never not going to be scared by anything. There are going to be things that you're going to have to do that you're going to be afraid of, but that's okay. Feel that fear and then set it to the side and decide what you have to do to move forward. Understand, yes, I'm scared, but I still have to do it. So I might as well do it, Now, barbell training shouldn't be like that. If you have a coach, if you don't have a coach, reach out to us, ask questions. We love answering questions about training and stuff. So
Yeah. And you definitely want to like keep trying, because there were times where I tried a different style of training and just didn't. I was like, I don't know that this feels right, and it didn't feel right this week, and then didn't feel right the next week. But I had to keep, trying. I had to keep seeking out how, if this does have, value in these different areas that I have weaknesses in, how can I make it work? So again, collaborative effort is the best way, I think, to kind of unlock some of those pieces for people. And yeah, I think just having purpose in your training, not just like, I want to be like having your primary goal, like I want to be strong. I want to bench this, deadlift this, squat this. Or I want to have huge glutes, and I want to have huge shoulders, or I want to have huge pecs, or whatever. Like, it's okay. It's good to have those goals, but we have to work a little bit outside of just those like pinpoint focal points to be able to really capitalize on making those improvements. So
yeah, which I think it comes back to enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Right, which I know is this
It will be
cliche thing that
lifelong.
everyone says, but like having enormous glutes, you can't fool me. Your glutes will never be big enough.
You'll
No matter
never
how
arrive.
big they get, you will always think, I want bigger glutes. So understand that. And once you can take that understanding and put it in your back pocket and keep it there, you're still striving
Put
for
it in
that.
your back pocket where your glutes are.
Yeah. Put it right next to him. Tell him, I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about you every day. All day. This is all you guys are all I think about. But understand that it's the pursuit is what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're not going to have big glutes one day. You will, but you're never going to feel like your glutes are big enough. When I first started training, all I saw was what the top 83 kilo lifters were doing. I never thought that I would deadlift 800 pounds. Now my goal is 1,000 pounds, and I never would have thought that of myself. But that goal has manifested itself over time just to give me something to reach for, right? Kind of like Janelle competing at Worlds and the Arnold to help in her weight loss for her next bikini competition. These things have given her checkmark set points that she can, like micro goals that she can work towards to enjoy the journey of getting back to the stage, which is just another milestone. That's all it is, just another stepping stone. That's it. Because then after that show, we're going to get back to work, right? And there's that book, Relentless, by Tim Grover, and that's what he talks about. Just being relentless is understanding that you're going to finish something, and then there's going to be the next thing. And that's just what life is. And I feel like when you understand that, you can get more enjoyment out of these things. It can go either way. You can get less enjoyment too, because you're not proud of yourself at all. And I feel like I kind of fall into that sometimes. I'm just never happy. But with myself, my athletes and my girlfriend is amazing. But me, I'm a failure. So
Oh, babe.
there's always more.
There's always more. That's right. Yes. Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast. We are available, like TC said, to answer questions. We have our website at recklesstraining.com, or you can reach out to us on Instagram. We would love to interact if you have specific questions on something that you've heard. I think reckless_training that's our Instagram handle. That would be the best one probably to send questions to.
Yeah. Or our website, our contact us form on our website is recklesstraining.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we have that we will be present at the Miami International Fitness Expo on May 24th in Miami. So if you want to come out and see the strong lifting, you want to participate in the event, or you just want to come support us, we appreciate that as well. So that information is also on our website. We also have a donation feature on our Reckless Training website as well, where if you feel that there's value within this podcast and you'd like to help financially support it in any way at all, we are, very grateful for any donations that people want to give us. We use it strictly for the podcast. We don't use it for vacation. We want to put it back into bringing value into the fitness space through the stuff that we learn, and just being real and candid as much as we can as athletes and coaches.
Our last donation, we got these new microphones and these cords.
Which are great because there was a time where we were like trying to jerry rig the cables so that we didn't have any feedback noise. So thank you for our donators that allowed our just a little bit smoother process for recording this podcast. So I think that is it. Any other last minute thoughts?
I don't think so. Just want to reiterate, just use your brain, guys. I know that our society these days does not encourage people to use their brains. They just want people to use their emotions, come to split second conclusions over the last meme that you saw. But slow down, enjoy the journey, and understand that this one workout is not what's going to grow your glutes. It's not what's going to have you deadlift 1,000 pounds. It's learning the processes and doing them over and over again. I've been working out since I was 13. I'm 34. And it takes time, guys.
It's a cumulative effort.
Yes. It takes time. Just be patient and continue learning.
All right. And with that,
work hard, stay humble, and train reckless.